So now you're going to see one of the biggest fails, or at least one of my biggest fails in World of Tanks in a long time, and this game was played just yesterday, so it's not as if it's one from the archives. This is a huge fail, and I, as I say, can't remember ever failing as badly as this before. So patch 9.15.1 has just been released. Physics were slightly changed in 9.15 over 9.14. I've moved up to Himmelsdorf. We are here on the hill on Himmelsdorf. We are here on Winter's Himmelsdorf, and I'm just working my SU-122-44 or 54 because this is one of my curse tanks. So I'm setting up here, waiting to ambush someone. No tanks appearing down along the D line, which is why I came up here to shoot. Our team are under a little bit of pressure. I'm wondering, should I go forward and poke the corner? Now, oh yes, there are targets, plenty of targets here. This is my curse tank. At the moment, this is the biggest curse tank I have in my garage. I just can't ace this flaming thing. This is my first class badge, but here we go. Here's the start of the fail. So I'm reversing around the corner, and my gun has gone crazy, and I'm going, what? What? No. Oh, no. Since when did the walls on this corner become ice? I was trying to use the walls to push my tank around the corner, but Patton KR comes up to help me. He's pushing me against the wall. I'm desperately grinding my tracks, trying to get out of this position. I'm so stuck, but I'm just wondering... Oh, hang on. I don't have great gun depression, but my gun traverse isn't too bad, so we go... Oh! Someone pushed me... No! We managed to do one shot, but he's turned me into a barricade. He pushed me right out in front of enemy tanks, and oh no. Oh, one of the biggest fails in World of Tanks in years. I don't think I've failed plenty of times. I fail every time I play. Usually it's positioning, lack of awareness, not looking at the minimap, but that was the biggest fail, I think, of recent memory. You guys seem to love Irish fails. Well, there you go. I had to bring that one to you. Oh. Hi guys, and welcome to the Ace Tanker for the T28 Prototype, the Tier 8 American tank destroyer, at least one of them. The one of them that isn't the regular T28, that's the non-turreted version of a Tier 8 tank destroyer. But neither of these tanks were actually designed as tank destroyers. They were considered assault guns. Now, the T28 was a prototype. So this is a prototype of a prototype. And in fact, if you read a lot of sources, in fact most sources seem to agree that this tank is completely fictitious. It never existed. But basically, when the T28 was being developed in late 1943, in preparation as an assault gun to take on the invasion of Europe and destroy pillboxes and concrete fortifications on the Siegfried Line, there was talk about making the T28 prototype, heavy tank prototype, a turreted TD, or a turreted assault gun. Talk of. There were no blueprints, no plans, none whatsoever. So a lot of people seem to agree on the fact that the T28 prototype as it is in game is completely fictitious, that it never existed, and there's no evidence to the contrary. But regardless, this is a turreted tank destroyer built on the chassis of a T28, which means it's got armor because it's an assault gun. And what armor it's got. The T28 prototype is extremely well armored. It's got armor equivalent to most Tier 8 heavy tanks, including the IS-3. Take a look at the front of this tank. The lower glacis looks weak, but the lower glacis is actually almost 300 millimeters thick. A lot of people try to shoot the lower glacis on a T28 prototype. That's probably the thickest armor, well, almost the thickest armor on the front of the tank. There are areas of the front of the tank that are even thicker than 283. So the lower glacis is not a weak spot on the T28 prototype. The upper glacis is extremely well angled, or armored, and it's angled, as you can see, slightly, not much, but it is angled. So this is incredibly effective armor against lower tier tanks. It's going to struggle against higher tier tanks, but you can angle and improve the angle of the armor, improve the armor quite a bit by angling. But yeah, I mean, even the front hull is very, very well armored. And again, you're going to have to angle to cause higher tier tanks problems, but lower tier tanks going to have major problems penetrating the front of this tank. Even similar tier tanks like maybe the T32, not going to be able to penetrate the front of this tank through the hull. I'm sorry, T32s. It gets worse than that because again, this lighter colored area looks weaker, but it's not. This is actually more effective armor. You get up to 340 millimeters of effective armor above the upper front plate, the upper glacis. You got these cheeks on the side again, which are traditionally weak, but they're angled, and you can see they're sloped, they're angled, and once again, look at the effective armor here. 373, almost 400, 382, 373. The front of this tank is extremely well angled or armored, and then you've got the turret, which again, traditional weak spots. Let's start going down from the turret. The cupolas, traditional weak spots in most tanks, but not the T28 Prototype. Again, look at that, about 220 millimeters of effective armor on very, very sloped and rounded cupolas. So again, you get people trying to shoot your cupolas because they think they're weak spots, but they're not. They're more effective armor-wise than the front of your tank, which is still very effective. You get a very, very good gun mantlet. You can see the gun mantlet goes from anywhere at 360, 400. You can get up to 600, 700, depending on where you hit the gun mantlet on this tank. So the gun mantlet, very, very good. And then the rest of the turret armor, you can see that there's some sloping, there's some angling going on, and it's not quite as effective as the rest of the tank, but it's still going to cause people to bounce. So you've got 216 here, you've got 210, again about 216, you can get up to 300 in some areas. So the turret can be very, very good at distance. Now the problem is the areas to the left and right of the gun mantlet are very, very flat. You can see this red area. Red indicates thick armor, but it's flat. And as a result, what you want to do when you're facing a T28 prototype that may be hull down directly in front of you, you've only got a turret to shoot at, you want to shoot these cheeks, these red triangles here, if you've got a gun that's got 210 millimeters of penetration, because even though people say that these are traditionally weak spots on the T28 prototype, they're only weak spots if you've got a gun that has enough penetration to go through them. So, IS-3 will have no problems going through the cheeks beside the gun mantlet close range on a T28 prototype. But, a tank maybe like the 110 that only has 215 millimeters of penetration may find itself bouncing. T28 that only has 198 millimeters of penetration may find itself bouncing. So, again, the cheeks are weak, but again, can be very effective against lower tier tanks. Now, how do you take one of these monsters out frontally? Well, the easiest way is the machine gun port. The machine gun port is only 152 millimeters thick. So, if people know what they're doing, they're going to aim at your machine gun port. And if you can't hide this machine gun port, if you're working your way around a right-hand corner, then you're going to be exposing your machine gun port. So, if you're taking these things on frontally and you don't have a gun that has more than 220 millimeters of penetration, aim for the machine gun port. That's it. That's pretty much the only weak spot on the front of the tank. Now, having said that, T28 prototypes are very, very susceptible to getting flanked because the side armor is only 50 millimeters thick. The rear, or the side of the turret armor, again, only about 142. And the rear of the tank, absolutely garbage. Even though it gets a turret, it doesn't really get a turret because it doesn't have a 360-degree movement. As you can see here, the turret can only turn about, I would say, I don't know what this is, 180, that's 180, so maybe 200-degree turret traverse, not 360. So it can't actually point its gun directly behind it. So if you are going to get to the rear of a tank, that's what you want to do. I think I've messed up Tanks GG here, but as you can see, the armor, extremely good on the T28 prototype. It's only weak if you can get to its side and rear. So in addition to having very, very good armor, the T28 prototype has an amazing traverse arc for a tank destroyer. And again, I'm saying traverse arc because, as I pointed out, even though it's got a turret, it can't rotate 360 degrees. But I mean, if you've got a TD that has a traverse arc of about, I don't know what it is, 220 degrees as opposed to 360, it's an incredibly incredibly good traverse arc. It means that you can move your turret without moving your hull, and it means that the camo rating at distance is going to be much, much better on the tank. You can track targets with your turret, and you don't have to move the hull, and you don't have to break your camo rating. Another bonus for a turreted TD. It also gets 10 degrees of gun depression. Very, very good gun depression. Typically American, you can use this tank hull down, where its turret armor is very, very good. You can hide that weak machine gun port on the front of the tank, and you can use its 10 degrees of gun depression, which is very, very good. So another positive for the tank. It also gets carries 40 rounds, which is quite a lot of ammunition, and it gets some very, very good guns. I mean, this tank was originally designed, if it existed, but the T28 was originally designed to carry the 105mm that the T29 and the T32 gets. This tank was never, ever designed to carry a 120mm, but that's what the final gun on this tank is. You get a 120mm gun. You can see that the alpha damage is very, very good. The penetration of 248 is very, very good. The premium ammo, extremely good. You get almost 300mm of penetration with APCR on the premium ammunition. So both the standard and the regular ammunition are very, very good on this tank. In addition to that, you get aim time of 2.1 seconds, which is very, very good with 120mm, and you get accuracy of 0.38, and all of these can be boosted with equipment and crew skills. So the accuracy of the gun is good, the aim time of the gun is good, the traverse arc is very good, the gun depression is very good, the penetration and alpha are very, very good, and the DPM of this tank is very, very good. You can get up to around 2,400 DPM with this tank destroyer if you've got equipment and crew skills. So the DPM is extremely good. In fact, I think you can get it closer to 2,500 DPM. So lots and lots of positives for the T28 prototype. But the only negative is that machine gun port and extremely poor side and rear armor, and the fact your turret can't turn 30 degrees, or 360 degrees. But what makes this tank balanced, maybe, is the fact it gets an extremely poor horsepower to weight ratio, because the engine and the drive system and the transmission on the T28, the original T28 prototype, not the turreted version, was based from or grabbed from the T1 heavy prototype tank. So it's got a very, very underpowered engine for such a heavy tank with a lot of armor. And as a result, the top speed of this tank is only 18 kilometers an hour. The reverse speed is only 7 kilometers an hour, so this is not a tank where you're going to be rushing around the map, rushing into positions, being able to poke out, take a shot, reverse back into cover. With only 7 kilometers an hour reverse speed and 18 kilometers an hour our top speed, it's not very good. And as I say, the acceleration, the horsepower to weight ratio, it's about 7.5 horsepower to ton. So the acceleration on the tank, not only is the top speed poor, but the acceleration is extremely poor on the tank as well. Yeah, the horsepower of the engine is only about 510 horsepower. So it's a very, very weak engine pushing a very, very heavy, very, very well armored tank. So the mobility of the T28 prototype is one of the things that counts against it. Now, the T28 prototype is quite easy to play. It really is quite an easy tank to play, especially when you get it onto city maps and small maps where you don't have to travel very far. But you can see how slow the tank is here. We're struggling to get to 18 kilometers an hour, but here on Ensk I don't have to worry about speed, I don't have to worry about traveling for 5 minutes before reaching enemy tanks. It's a very, very tier 8 game. About half the tanks on either team are tier 8s, and I'm playing this, I'll play it on ×4, but what you're going to see is me playing it like a heavy tank. I'm playing the T28 prototype like a heavy tank because my armor is as good as anything on the enemy team, as any of the heavy tanks on my own team. And we are just able to move up, stay angled, keep our frontal armor to the enemy team. Look at this, RNG. FCM50T on 130 health, and we managed to bounce. So, you know, I've just played very aggressively. We've done almost 2k damage, and the game is over. So, you know, this was an absolute massacre. It's just a pity I couldn't have picked up the kill on the FCM50T. But what you're seeing here is just, again, we're on ×4. And trying to wrap up at the end of games. I have no idea why our OI decided to kill our T25, but yeah, just one tank left on the enemy team. Trying to wrap up at the end of games. Very, very difficult on a T28 prototype, but my point is, you play this like a heavy tank. If the map allows it, you can play the T28 prototype like a heavy tank. However, things are different when we get it onto big open maps where there's a lot of terrain we need to cover because the tank is not fast, it's not maneuverable, and it's going to have problems keeping up with other heavy tanks. So it's much more difficult to play the T28 prototype like a heavy tank on a big open map, at least in my experiences. So traditionally here on Arctic, what would happen is the heavy tanks would maybe head down to this corner at H8, H7, H8, work their way up the 9-0 lines after destroying everything in front of them. But the problem with the T28 prototype is when you try to do that in a big open map, a lot of the time what happens is you try to follow heavy tanks and try and do a heavy tank roll, but the heavy tanks in front of you are much quicker and they get to the enemy tanks much quicker, and two things can happen. Either they kill all the enemies and move on and you're still left trying to catch up and you never get to see enemy tanks or shoot them, or your heavy tanks that rush ahead of you all die before you can get there to support them, and you find yourself standing alone against whatever the enemy has left standing. So it's never an ideal situation on a big open map. You've got to really think ahead in the T28 prototype. If there are a lot of medium tanks and fast medium tanks on the enemy team, you want to get yourself, or try to avoid getting yourself into a position where they can flank you, get side and rear shots, because really, while the gun is amazing, the gun depression is amazing, the armor is amazing, but only frontally. You really want to use this tank on choke points or try and get into positions where enemy tanks can't get to your side and rear. So here on Arctic, I've got this decision to make. Do I go with the heavies down to H7, H8, or do I go up the 1-2 lines with my medium tanks? And I'm looking at the team list at the beginning of the game, and I'm seeing, you know, we've got a Carnarvon, we've got an IS-3, a T-32, a T-34. I would be expecting all of these guys. We've got an IS, IS-2, T29, 3 T29s. In fact, our team are mainly heavy tanks. So I'm expecting all of these heavy tanks to basically travel down and basically go to H8 and work the 9-0 lines. I'm looking at the enemy team and I'm seeing mainly heavy tanks. I'm seeing a lot of heavy tanks here on the enemy team as well, but I'm also seeing a CDC and a T44 that we don't have. So the enemy team have 3 arty and they've got 2 medium tanks, whereas our team seem to be mainly made up of heavy tanks and a T44. We've also got, is it 3 RT? Yep, 3 RT either side. So the T28 prototype, it's quite susceptible to RT damage. Now, it's better than it used to be because I believe in 9.13 or 9.14, whenever it got its HD remake, this used to be an open top turret. It's now a closed top turret, which has 2 advantages. One is that the T28 prototype can now use vents. You can now use vents to make your tank about 2.5% better, which you couldn't do before. And also it adds a little bit of protection from RT, because when it was open top, the tank took a little bit more damage, or a lot more damage from RT than it does now. Because even if RT shells managed to land on the front of your tank and the heavily armor and it didn't penetrate, because you were open top, you suffered more splash damage. That doesn't happen quite so much anymore because it's now a closed top turret, at least the final turret is. So the tank did get a little bit of a buff regarding its armor protection when the HD remake or model was done. But yeah, I've got a very difficult decision to make. Do I go north or do I go with all the other heavies? And I decide we don't have very many medium tanks. I've got to go north and support our mediums. But I've got this slow acceleration. This tank also only has 20 degrees of traverse speed. So, I mean, even if enemy tanks get to your side or rear, it's going to take you forever to turn. Now, I've decided I'm going to play a little bit more passively. I'm not going to play like a heavy tank. I'm looking at the mini-map, I'm looking at our team's distribution, and my first thoughts are we're going to be heading up here, we're going to do some sniping in the traditional sniping area. Now, as I say, I don't usually play like this because I like my TDs, I play my TDs to their strengths, and a lot of TDs have armor that's equivalent to heavy tank armor. So there's no reason to play them passively if you're top tier. If you've got better armor than most of the tanks on your team, in my opinion, you should be on the front line. But yeah, I was going to go up to that sniping position, and then I changed my mind and I say, you know what, I'm just going to go. We're going to go north. And as you can see, you know, our team are all down at H7, H8 already. I would still only be around J5 if I decided to go that direction. I wouldn't be able to catch up. But we've sent a lot of tanks down the 9-0 line. We've got a lot of tanks up on the 1-2 lines. We've got very few people camping spawn. So yeah, I'm thinking this looks like a very good team. It looks as if it's going to be a pretty good game. as long as I can get into position and start getting shots at enemy tanks. But at the moment, the only thing on our flank... Oh, there's a Panther I didn't spot, but look at the aim time, quite good. And the accuracy of .38 let me down, and that managed to fly under the Panther. So a terrible start to this Ace Tanker game. But second shot, there we go, 379. So that was a low roll. Remember, the average damage on this gun, or the average alpha, is 400. So I go for a blind shot, don't kill the Panther, but in the meantime, we're staying safe. As I say, I'm aware that there are 3 RT on the enemy team. The T-44 just got hit by a small caliber gun. I decide to advance to put a big shot into the T-44, who completely ignores me, and there's another low roll. So that's one thing I have noticed. Even though this tank does have alpha damage of 400, I very, very rarely roll above 400. Usually it feels like a heavy tank gun with alpha of about 390. But you can see me being very, very cautious here, staying RT safe. RT is the biggest fear I have. It's the only thing I fear in this game at the moment. So we've got lots of tanks down on the 9-0 lines, and the enemy team have sent a lot of their heavies down the 9-0 lines, and now I'm wondering, it doesn't look good. It really doesn't look good with only a Panther at Tiger P down here. T-44 hasn't been seen in some time, so my spider sense is tingling, and I figure the T-44 has backed off, he's flanking. And there is nothing between the T-44 and our RT, so I've got to protect our RT. I'm coming back because I suspect the T-44 is flanking. We've got nothing in the middle of the map, and I'm right. I am right. T-44 gets spotted, so is he going to come out? He is. And we fail to track him. I go for a track shot. You can see that the armor... This guy tries to shoot me. He's trying to shoot me on the turret, on the flat cheeks. But again, as I say, a lot of people say they're weak spots, but as long as you've got a gun that has less than 220 millimeters of penetration, they're not weak spots. But that was not needed. Oh, slow reactions from me. That was not needed. Unfortunately, our T-44 gets ammo racked by the enemy T-44, and that means I've got 3 RT and a T-44 to contend with. So I decide to poke, and I decide to risk it, and maybe RT's focused on other tanks, so we poke out, we take out the T-44, and we reverse back into cover, and RT has left me alone. But in the meantime, our tanks down on the 9-0 lines have collapsed. You know, we've only got an IS and a T-34 left down there. And enemy tanks, there's still at least 5 enemy tanks, 6 enemy tanks according to the minimap that are on the 9-0 line, so I've got to relocate. I'm going to come up and try and support this IS. He's screaming for help, but this tank just doesn't have the speed or mobility. I'm doing my best, and what I can do now is I can set up an ambush and basically hope that the IS is going to spot enemy tanks coming around. But yeah, not a great start. The one flank has collapsed, the other flank seems to be held back because there are 3 RT in play. Oh, and there's that horrible, horrible Black Prince turret armor. We go for below the turret armor, but unfortunately don't manage to pen. But Tiger 2, we take out the Tiger 2. I need to keep this IS alive, because as long as the IS is alive, he's spotting, and I can support him. So thankfully, a lot of these tanks are on low health. There's kill number 3. Black Prince is advancing, he's showing me his side, and that's what I needed. So 374 damage again. As you can see, 400 alpha damage, and we're still failing. We haven't, I don't think we've rolled over 400 once. So we take out the Black Prince for kill number 4. T-34 is trying to take on the IS. Come on, IS, stay alive. You're the only one who's spotting. We take out the T-34 for kill number 5. So there's a Borsig and a T-29 down here. I know that the T-29 is, if I remember correctly, he's a one-hit kill. And in the meantime, now the north of the map has collapsed. So I'm trying to help this IS. We've done a lot of work down here, but there's still a Borsig, there's still a T-29, and now the north of the map has collapsed, and I've got to go deal with the north, and I can't help the IS anymore, and I am so divided right now. The lack of flexibility the T28 Prototype gives you, it's just a pain in the ass, because you've got to really think about what you're doing. You know, 2 or 3 moves ahead. You've got to keep an eye on your mini-map. Oh, CDC comes up. I've got to kill this CDC. Got to kill him. And yes, we managed to take him out, but I've been ammo racked, and there's 3 RT in play, and oh no, now an IS-2 has appeared. The Borsig and T29 are behind me, and oh, there's that GW Panther, and I've just lost all my health. This is why I did not use my repair kit so before now, because I could have been tracked out in the open, but I put my radio operator back in action. I've still got a gun, I'm still loaded. And IS-2 advances, we put 1 shot in, and I've got to keep RT safe and keep my frontal armor to these guys. So I'm trying to angle the front of my tank. And I don't know if it's a replay bug or what's happening, but I'm sure I've noticed whether or not my ammo rack has been damaged. I would have thought I put my ammo rack back in by now. But I know that there's still a Tiger P coming from the north. And there's a tree falling, and he's got company, so there's an IS-2 and a Tiger P in the north. We get 1 shot in, and we finally... Oh, we don't even do our 400 damage. Again, it's 349. Put another shot in, we're angled, put a shot in, and again, only 369. So RT takes out the IS-2, just a Tiger P in the distance, going for his weak turret, not much to shoot at, and we miss. Our IS has managed to kill their Borsig, thankfully, but I'm on 6 kills, 3 RT all aiming at me. Our IS has decided to advance. The T29 hasn't been spotted in some time. And I wait till I drop off radar and then I advance, because I do not want to get flanked through the middle by the T29. So I'm going to move up to these mountains here and use them as more effective RT cover. The T20 or the Tiger P doesn't seem inclined to advance. And yeah, it's all about decisions when you're in a T28 prototype. And every decision you make could be the wrong one. So we've moved forward. And I'm debating whether or not to attack, because I'm only on 260 health. That RT shell that landed on my engine deck, 618 damage, and that means I'm a one-hit kill. I'm a one-hit kill to the T29, I'm a one-hit kill to the Tiger P. The IS is slowly advancing, and this is the whole reason I'm holding my position here. I'm hoping the IS can kill some RT, take the pressure off me. And if I was RT, I'd be relocating. If I was RT, I would be sitting up in A1, A2, or I'd be sitting down in H8, H9, but it doesn't look as if one of the RT has relocated. There's the GW Panther down. There's still another GW Panther and an M12. So, unfortunately, the other GW Panther takes out our IS, and I've had to advance. So, we've got to kill this Tiger P. I was hoping enemy RT was focused on the IS. I maybe waited probably about 15 seconds too late, but Tiger P advances, we put a shot into him, we're staying angled, and he has problems penning me, so I think I'm relatively RT safe. We take out the Tiger P for kill number 7. And that just means that there's a T29 that hasn't been spotted. He's either north, or he's in the middle of the map. So it's just me and 2 RT versus a T29 and 2 RT. And again, I'm trying to stay RT safe. I definitely have fixed my ammo rack by now. This is just a replay bug. But we move up. And as I say, I'm a one-hit kill. You know, RT can pretty much splash hit me. Now, I do have binocs on this tank, which means that if I sit still and get an opportunity to sit still, there's a chance I might be able to outspot the remaining enemy tanks. So I'm moving up to this corner, and my plan is basically just to sit still long enough for my binocs to kick in and see if we spot anything. And no. Oh, there we go. That's the benefit of binocs. So we spot the T29, he's moving across, and we take him out with a single shot. So there's kill number 8. Just 2 tanks left on the enemy team, both RT. And it went from a very high pressure situation. Things have eased off now. It's just a question of where the RT is, I reckon. One of them is north. Oh, there's the M12. He is north. So, no, the GW Panther has just appeared behind me and he spotted me. So we turn. Oh, we've got to kill this guy. We've got to kill this guy. We take a shot. His shot is in the air and no! Oh, you can see me in chat here. No! We kill each other. Oh, no. So, no, that was kill number 9. I just had to connect that shot and then go kill the M12 for kill number 10. 9 kills and I die. And now I am completely dependent on 2 arty players as to whether or not we win this game. So we've done 5k damage, 9 kills. I can't complain. But this GW Panther just needs to keep the M12 proxy spotted, which he's failing to do. There he is. He has to wait. All he has to do, I'm saying in chat, wait for support and go together. He just has to wait for the M40, M43 to move up. But does he? No. He decides to advance. Now, thankfully, his traverse speed seems to be okay. Don't fire, don't fire, don't fire. Okay, you've got him, dude. You've got him. No, he missed, and the M12 missed. They've decided to go without waiting for support, and the M40 has a shot. The M40 does have a shot, but the GW Panther is moving in, and yet the M40 is still going to take the shot. Watch this. At least if I remember correctly. Yes! Oh, wow! Did you see that? The M40 barely missed the M12. His shot basically passed between the rear of the turret shield, or the gun shield, and the rear of the back shield. He almost killed our own arty with an absolutely stupid shot. But our GW Panther is now chasing down the M12, and I'm going, oh, please don't lose this, guys. Please don't lose this. M12 must be reloaded by now. Oh, wow, what a silly shot by the M40. It could have cost us the game there. But thankfully, M40 reloads and finishes everything off. It's a win! So yeah, first Ace Tanker in the T28 Prototype, and even though I've had some really, really good games in the T28 Prototype, it's still a very inflexible tank. It's quite map dependent, and it takes a lot of mini-map watching. You've got to outthink the enemy team in this tank more than a lot of other tanks. It's very unforgiving. If you make a mistake and allow enemy tanks to get to your side and rear, the T28 Prototype is just a sitting duck. It's an XP pinata, and you've really got to think about your decisions. You've really got to keep an eye on that mini-map, and it's quite a tricky tank to play depending on the map you get it on. When you get it onto a small city map, then it's, a lot of the thinking goes out the window because you just play it like a heavy. Go up to the front line, try and stay hull down, hide your machine gun port, don't let enemy tanks flank you, and basically just start tearing them up with that great gun. But first ace in the T28 Prototype, we picked up Radley Walters, almost picked up a Pools. Oh, that lucky GW Panther at the end. High caliber and obviously the automatic Top Gun. We finished top on XP with 1624, 5k damage done, 9 kills, can't complain. And that has definitely been the best game I've had in the T28 Prototype so far, even though I didn't move very far because it was a big open map. We fired 22, hit 18, and pen 17. I love the gun. I think the 120mm, even though it's not historically accurate, well, the whole tank isn't historically accurate in the first place, but it was designed to use the 105mm gun that the T29 and the T32 get, but yeah, the 120mm is pretty good. Happy with the damage, happy with the armor at distance. Again, we took received 8 hits and we blocked 5, 3 penetrations, but one of those was arty, and we blocked 1270 damage when we were able to keep the front of our tank to enemy tanks. Spotted 1, damaged 11, destroyed 9, did 647 assistance damage, and earned 33.3k credits. First game of the day was a ×3, I'm happy to say, which got me quite a bit of the way towards the tier 9, the T30, which I'm looking forward to. 2,436 overall. Yep, so T28 Prototype. This game, I was saying to someone on TS shortly after playing this game that this game almost wants me to like the T28 Prototype, but overall I think I've had more average or bad games in this tank due to the lack of speed and mobility than I've actually had good ones. But when the situation arises, I think the T28 Prototype, when played to its strengths, can be very good. And when you're top tier, you're a heavy tank, guys. You've got 10 degrees of gun depression, amazing frontal armor. Stop camping. Just because it's called a TD doesn't mean it's a TD. You can play it a lot more aggressively, a lot more like a heavy tank when you're top tier, and you've got lower tier tanks shooting at you because your frontal armor is absolutely amazing. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. I'll see you next time.